Hi there, I'm Dark Shades, broadcasting out of the UK. Thank you for welcoming me into your home, onto your phone, and thank you for passing by. If you like my channel, you can subscribe, you can like, you can dislike, you can share. Today, not today, I have been asked, what makes a good relationship or what makes a relationship work? Now, you might ask, someone who's been married 3 times, what can she tell me? What does she know? Because some people seem to think that if you haven't been in a relationship that has lasted goodness knows how long, you're not qualified to talk about what would make a relationship work. But I would think that someone who has been out of a relationship and in a relationship and tried to make it work will know what makes it work for me. I can only say through common sense what I think makes a good relationship. And so that won't mean the same for everyone, will it? So, number one, I'd have to say, okay, you might say, so why didn't your relationships work? Now, I'm going to be brutally honest. The first one didn't work because I guess I was young. Good excuse. I'm not quite sure. I was 19. Or was I 18? I was 18 or 19. I was married to somebody who was extremely possessive and who hit me sometimes. And I decided to scarper. So that's the first one. The second one, I was married to somebody who was associated with a celebrity. He was her bodyguard. He wanted me to go on tour with him, but by that time I had 2 children from my previous relationship. And so he wanted me to go on tour with him. It wasn't practical to go on tour with him. I needed to provide for myself and my child because even though he was going on tour, he wasn't providing for me. So therefore, I had to look after myself and my child. He didn't like it. He got stroppy. That was the end of that story. And the third one, it was sheer incompatibility. And I think it was, I'll just say it was incompatibility. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much in the ins and outs of that. So you can say, oh, so what do you know? What can you tell me about making a relationship work? Well, I know what makes a relationship work. I know the parts I played in the relationship. I mean, you get a lot of women who blame the men for the relationship breakdown. I can only blame myself. I have very, very low tolerance for lack of consideration. I have very low tolerance for lies because I have trust issues based on way, way back. And I have a very low tolerance for abuse. So if by having low tolerance for those 3 areas, that makes me unqualified to speak about what makes a relationship work, well then, that's up to you. You can switch off now. But for me, I don't think it really matters about the length of a relationship. I don't think that's what qualifies. From the outside looking in, a lot of us, we will look at people who have been married for 30, 40 years, and you'll hear them say at the end of a 10-year or 20-year or 30-year, oh, this is my gold anniversary, this is my platinum anniversary, this is my silver anniversary. And we all sit there in awe. And we think, oh my God, how did they do that? And, some people, they do commit to what they married for in sickness and in health, regardless of abuse, regardless of infidelity, regardless of everything. You have women who stick it out. My mother was one such woman. My mother stuck with her husband through abuse, through infidelity, and through lack of finances. She had to fend for herself. So you do have women who do that. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that for me, I need to be cared for, I need to be nurtured, and I need to be loved. And for me, that is what a relationship is all about. I don't believe a relationship is about being a martyr. I don't think a relationship, an enduring relationship, is about being unhappy. And I don't think the enduring relationship is about compromising all your values, compromising who you are, keeping yourself quiet, keeping yourself in, to keep the peace. I don't think that's a fulfilling relationship. And if that's what you've got to do to make it last 30, 40 years, then you can stuff it. I don't want it. And this video is probably not for you. If you're looking for a video that's going to tell you to stick it out through abuse, through lack of consideration, people taking you for granted, or spouses taking you for granted, spouses not supporting you or nurturing you, and all of this, and you're supposed to stick it out just because you said I do, then no. You've made a bad choice. And if you choose to stick through that, then that's up to you. Personally, I'm going to tell you what I believe is a good relationship and makes a relationship work. And there are plenty of them. I see relationships that have worked purely on an excellent choice of partner. They're compatible, they have fun, they're still laughing, they're making love, they're touching, they're playing after several years. That is what you call a good relationship. And that is one based on good choice. And that is where we begin. A good relationship is based on a good choice. It's not based on choosing a partner when you're feeling low, when you're feeling desperate, when you're feeling frustrated, when you're feeling broke, you ain't got no money, and all kinds of different rationales why people jump into a relationship. They're feeling lonely. They're afraid because they're getting old. All of these reasons are not the foundation for a good relationship. You have to know that that person that you're choosing is on the same wavelength as you, has the same values as you, same sense of humor, similar interests. There will be things that are different, and that's absolutely fine. We're all different. But the main things, the main foundation should be there. To me, the main foundation is respect. The main foundation is consideration. Relationships would flourish if people were considerate. I believe that lack of consideration is what causes the most problems in relationship. It's what causes the woman to nag. It's what causes the man to get frustrated and go off. And it's what causes relationships to have the most conflict. Lack of consideration. And it covers a gamut from walking through that door and just thinking to yourself, oh, I can fling this down. My wife will pick it up. I can eat out of this plate. My wife will wash it up. Or he might say, I'm going to give her some money to sort out. And she's going to think, oh, well, I can do whatever I want with it. It's about lack of consideration. It's about, if you care about that person, you're going to think about what they've done, what contributions they make, and how they achieve those contributions, why they're actually giving you those contributions, whether they're emotional, whether they're physical, whether they're financial. It's not about taking the person for granted and taking the pee. So when you see lack of consideration, that is a marker. That is a red flag. Because as small as it seems, it opens a wide, wide well of problems. And you can tell if you're going on a date and the man doesn't, you offer to do something and he doesn't kind of I'm not saying tit for tat, but supposing you say, okay, it's my treat. I'm going to take you out for dinner. And they don't say, well, okay, I'll pay the tip. It's lovely of you. I'll pay the tip. Or, on the way home, he stops off and he'll buy you a bottle of wine. It was lovely for you to treat me today, darling. Here's a bottle of wine. We can drink it together. Little things you can tell from the get-go. What is he asking for from you? What are you giving to him? Is it balanced or is it one-sided? That's how you can tell whether somebody's considerate enough or not. And it's not enough for the first date, because the first date, people are putting on their best behaviour. It's that third and fourth and fifth date where you see the signs coming in that, that person was just trying to draw you in. And you have to look for consistencies. You have to look for what they say now and what they say 6 months down the line. Because that's another thing, trust. Trust is so important in relationships. People think that, if I tell a little white lie, it doesn't matter. You tell a little white lie, especially to somebody like me, my antenna goes up and I'm thinking, well, what else is he not being honest to me about? And I start feeling uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable with lies. I feel that I have integrity. I feel that I'm honest. And okay, I might take a bit of paper from work or something like that. But I'm talking about in relationships. I try to be honest in all things, especially when it's important. I'm not going to volunteer a lie. I'm not going to go into a relationship and say, I've got no debts. I'm finance free. I've got all my things sorted out. And then 6 months down the line, you find that they've got this and they've got that and they've got this. And you're kind of thinking, so why did they volunteer a lie? Or some people say, I don't smoke. And then down the line, you see them you catch them having a cigarette. And then they're saying, well, I only social smoke. Little lies. I don't gamble. I just put on the lottery every week. And then next thing you find out that they're betting on the horses and they're when they've gone up the road, they've gone to the bookie. Lies. They're not good basis for relationships. So when they tell us, we kind of thought, it's a load of crap when they say take time to get to know someone. Date someone just from 6 months to a year before you get involved. There's a reason behind that, because within 6 to 12 months, you can find out all of those little lies that they've been telling you from the beginning. They all surface. But if you jump in head first because, somebody think, you're the best thing since sliced bread. You're the one I've wanted. You're the one I've been looking for all my life. And you think you're so, enamored by it all. And, you're kind of thinking, great. He loves me, blah, blah, blah. You jump in blind. And then all these things start cropping up. And you find you've married or you're living with a cropper. Somebody who's pure trouble. And who drags you down with them. So when we're thinking about what makes a good relationship, okay, let me go to my notes. Honesty up front. Even small things. Because once somebody finds out that you've lied about a small thing, they'll mistrust you. And regardless of how you play it off and say, that's only a small thing. I didn't think it was that important. Stop making a mountain out of a molehill and all this. You'll find that those little lies, they increase and they keep finding their way into the relationship. So as long as they start off with untruths, you've got to be extremely wary. Regardless, you can decide for yourself whether or not the lie is important to you as an individual. Is it important that they lied? And even if you can justify their lie, how important is that to you? You have to ask yourself that question. Okay, consideration, that's what I've said. There's got to be give and take. You know, some people that enter into relationships with expectations, and the expectation seems to be one way. They want you to do things for them, but they don't want to do things back. And I'm not saying it's tit for tat, but there's different ways to reciprocate. There's different ways to balance the odds. And there's different ways that you can show somebody that you're considerate. So it is about give and take, and it is about reciprocation, and it is about, if you expect something from someone, you need to be able to expect to give that to someone, or be prepared to give it, you know. And if you don't want to do something for someone, you have to be prepared that that person might not want to do it for you. So you don't ask somebody to do something for you that you wouldn't do for them. That's what I'm saying. Or you don't have the capacity to do for them. Some people, they say, oh, lend me 100 quid. And there's no way in hell that they could ever be in a position to bail you out if you were in trouble. That's what I'm talking about. So, and show interest. You need to have compassion. We all have our stories. We all have our past. We all have our histories. And it's about listening to your partner, empathizing with their past, and understanding how that makes them who they are. If they've had a past of betrayal, if they've had a past of brutality or abuse, it might make them more wary or skeptical or mistrusting. It might make them aggressive. It might make them uncomfortable. It might make them take that bit longer to get to know you. It might have their effects. It would have the effects. So you have to try and empathize that when you see certain behaviors, you can say, it's probably because of so and so. So opening up with somebody is important, especially someone who you plan to share your life with, so that that person can understand the little inconsistencies or the behavioral patterns. If the person snaps all of a sudden because you've said something, you can actually relate it to something that they've said that happened in the past, and you can say, that's why. You know, you don't take things personally that way, and you don't get angry, and it reduces conflict. So that's about showing interest in somebody, in their past, who they are now, what they plan to do in the future, what are their goals, and that kind of thing. And most importantly, you know, do they have emotional stability? You know, you end up, you can go out with somebody, they look so cool and calm and collect. You say the wrong thing and they flip. So you've got a lot of schizophrenic people out there, a lot of people with bipolar disorder. And until you test the different ways of how they manage conflict, you're not going to know when they flip how they're going to react to you. So, do they have emotional stability? Do they get uptight when you say the wrong thing? Are they kind of really edgy? Are they defensive? Do they take a lot of things personally? These are the kind of things you have to look at. I'm not saying that you don't deal with people who have these issues, but it's something that you need to look at, because you have to know where that's coming from, so that maybe you can kind of understand that person better. People aren't defensive, overly defensive for no reason. People don't have a victim mentality for no reason. It's like when they say black people have a chip on their shoulder. It's not there for no reason. It's because of their past. Similarly, when you go into a relationship, when you have all these different behavioral styles and attachment styles, they're there for a reason, because of how they grew up, because of their parenting, because of what has taken place through their adolescent years. It's factored right through until the present day. And now you've entered into their life, and you get the outcome of all of those experiences. So emotional stability is important, because after a certain time, you do tend to heal from all of those wounds, but some people don't, because those wounds have been reopened and reopened over time, and they've spent time in relationships and probably choosing the wrong person. that means that those wounds never get closed. They never get a chance to heal. And so they're always reopening. And then by the time you've got them, you're just another person who's going to put another band-aid over it. And the slightest little thing, they flip. And you're like, bloody hell. So similar. So we talked about financial stability. That is important. The two of you on an even playing field. No point somebody having a lot and another person not having anything at all. Each one needs to be able to build the other up when things go wrong. That is the reason. It's not that people are looking. I know you do have gold diggers, and I know you have men who look for women that they can exploit or abuse and take advantage of. But we're talking about healthy relationships here. And it's about making healthy choices. So when you're making a healthy choices, if you're working and you have your little home and you have your little bit of savings, why would you take up someone who's not working, who doesn't have a job, who doesn't drive? And then those type of men are the ones that will say, you're too materialistic. Just because me don't have a car, just because me don't have nowhere to live, just because me don't have a job, you know what me? A guy said that to me once. He said to me, why is it that women don't want men who don't have a job? And I looked at him and he said, it's not our fault that we don't have a job. Supposing we can't get a job. And I said to him, imagine if a woman came to you and she said to you, I don't have a job, can I come and stay with you? That woman's going to be perceived as a burden. Likewise, it's no different. Like I keep saying, men seem to think that women are there to take care of them. We are their caretakers. We are not. We're not your mothers. So when you don't have a job and you don't have a place to live, and you see a woman who's got a job and you're thinking, oh yeah, well, she's financially stable, I can latch onto her. That's not fair. You then become a burden. You are an encumbrance. And regardless of how you got yourself in that position or how, circumstances prevailed and you was a victim of misfortune or some unfortunate circumstances, you have to try to be considerate and unselfish and say to yourself, what would I do in that position? And how can I balance the odds so they're not so unfair? And then that's about consideration, trying to even out the score. So even if you don't have as much as that person does, you can do what you can for that person. And that person shouldn't even have to ask. You should see yourself in a certain position as a man and say, okay, I've got nothing to offer. I'm not working. I'm living in this woman's house. What can I do? What part can I play? And you'd be surprised, if a woman is working and she come back and see her place spotless and she sees some food on the fire. And you'd be surprised, but no, these men don't do that. They don't think like that. They come in, they're sitting there and looking at you and expect you to come in from work and put the food on the fire. Or they might say, oh, you don't have to cook for me, I can find some food for myself. I can find something for myself. Or whatever it is they might say. But it doesn't occur to them to do something that would alleviate that burden. And that's about consideration. Always thinking ahead. Always thinking, how can I help? What can I do to assist? How can I make her life easier? And I'm talking about him to a woman, but it works the other way around. If you're a woman, you get some women who live off of men, but a lot of them, they might be cooking, ironing, cleaning. I doubt very much if they're sitting there doing nothing, because I don't think it's innate in a woman to do that. That's why I'm kind of switching it around, because we've seen plenty of examples where men do not pull their weight. And all they do is have that victim mentality of saying, I don't have the system won't give me a job. We can't get this, I can't do that. I don't know how to do it. And that's all it is, excuses. And yet what with with what they've got their health, they've got their hands, they've got their sight, they've got their ears, they have their senses, they have their extremities. They're healthy human beings, and yet they still do not do with what they have to help support a woman in some way. That's why she gets peed off, and that's why she doesn't want to help them. And that's why relationships do not work as they should. They should be able to work regardless of the financial situation. And also, if that woman has taken on a man and he's not paying any bills and he can't work for whatever reason, he should be making sure that whatever he's doing, he's not adding to those bills. He's not having the lights on all day or whatever on all day. You know what I mean? So he's being considerate. And that goes back to, I believe, the core quality of a lasting relationship is consideration. And consideration comes out of love. If you care about somebody, you will be considerate. And I think a lot of these relationships are troublesome because people are selfish and they lack consideration. So what else have we got? I think, similar interests. I think that's helpful when you like the same thing. You might want to watch the same programs. Little things. You might want to play games, whatever it is. What's that? Can't even read my own handwriting there. I don't know what that one is. Used for responsibility. Felt I've done that. Mutual agreement. Yeah, I think also what is helpful is that you have a mutual agreement from the get-go. And that could be something as similar, as easy as, what's the title? What makes a good relationship? Yeah, that could be as simple as when you get together, the two of you agree how the relationship is going to work. It sounds very calculating, but we both have different interests and different skills. One person might say, okay, I hate the ironing. And the other person will say, I don't mind washing the clothes. Or one person might say, I hate cooking, but I don't mind making desserts, or I don't mind washing up. One person might say, oh, I don't like hoovering. And the other person will say, I love polishing, you know? So you kind of have some kind of agreement before you even live together, what you like to do, what your expectations of each other are. And they might say, okay, we're going to live together. So how much do you want towards the bill? Or I only have so much to contribute. Is that enough? You know, so you've got some kind of ideas. You kind of thought about all those things through. So when you go into a relationship, you go into it with two people, understanding their roles and understanding what is expected of each other. Okay. Some men think that they determine the relationship. Like I was listening to something today and they said, the man has realized his mistake and he wants to go back. And he's decided he's going to go back because he realizes that this is the woman that he wants. And I'm thinking to myself, a lot of times it's like when you go to a dance. You go to a dance and, you know, it's almost like the man, and I'm not talking about these rude women who put up their hand and, you know, just diss a man. I'm not talking about that. But it's almost like a man believes that he has the choice. It's his decision. That the woman doesn't have a say. And if the woman does have a say, she's out of order. She's disrespectful. But it's a two-way thing. There has to be some kind of commonality. So what I'm saying is, I know dances are of the past and maybe somewhere in the distant future. But if a man gets some kind of reciprocation from a woman, like as he's approaching her, she's smiling or whatever, and she's giving him, that's totally different. But you find some situations where a man thinks it's totally up to him how things go, or how a relationship goes, or if a relationship should be reconciled. so that if they've done something wrong in that relationship, they will expect that woman, and if they haven't apologized, then when they decide to apologize, maybe 3 weeks down the line, wherever it is, then they'll expect that woman to just, because they've decided now to apologize after 3 weeks, they expect that woman to turn around and say, okay, darling, I accept your apology, because they've decided. But they don't think about what's been going on throughout that period. So it's not a question of, I believe that they should say, look, I'm really sorry. It's taken me a while to think this through. And I know that you're probably still peed off with me, but, I just need to say sorry. It's totally different from somebody going up to a woman and saying, look, I'm sorry, no, but I shoot up your mouth. Just fix up, I said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So what more you want me to do? What more you want me to say? It's two different ways of communicating. One is through expectation, and one shows sensitivity and compassion about their role in the situation. And I hope this doesn't sound like I'm bashing men. I'm hoping it's actually giving some men some insight to how some women think. Not all women, but if there are men watching this, I hope they don't think I'm bashing them. I'm just trying to let them know how to make a relationship work, because I think men go in blind. I think a lot of men go into relationships thinking, oh, I've got a woman, she'll go look after me. And all I have to do is give her a little piece of sex and, give her a little 2 shilling and she cool. And that's like, God, that isn't it. It's about consideration in a relationship, in all aspects of the relationships. That's why they say relationships aren't easy. And relationships take time, because you have to know your person's style. You have to know the way your person expresses themselves, or what they like from what they don't like. And that's a learning process over time. And sometimes you can only find that out by making mistakes. So whether it's a woman that makes a mistake or the man that makes a mistake, it's about saying, okay, I didn't realize you didn't like that, honey. I'm so sorry. And then you don't make that mistake again, but you apologize for it, because you don't know people 100%. We're all new to each other. We're all strangers. So when you meet somebody new, you're kind of treading your way through, feeling your way through. Some people are instinctive and they know exactly what their partner likes and what their partner dislikes. And other partners, they kind of tumble in and they fall over a few times and they get up and they make it work in the long term. But I believe that when you do that, I think it's because that person is being considerate, it's being sensitive, and it's being genuinely apologetic for hurting the person who they love. And I think love in relationship is so important. And I'm not talking about puppy love. I'm not talking about infatuation. I'm not talking about goo gaga love. I'm talking about the love that shows compassion and understanding and sensitivity. So what else have we got here? I think, a lot of men say black women are demanding. And I think probably they are. Like I said, sometimes the same way I was talking about black people and, being victims and having a chip on their shoulder, or a perceived chip on their shoulder because of their background. But similarly with black women, we've had to go through, try to be self-sufficient, try to manage on our own. And so therefore, when we have a man in our lives, we want that man to kind of represent, So when we want a man to represent us, we can be demanding, especially when we see the potential in that man to represent us. Some men might think, they might even say, oh, I don't like them kind of thing, or I'm not into all of them kind of thing. And that's fine, you're all different. But I think when a woman is demanding of a man, it's because they want him to step up to the plate. They know he's capable of stepping up to the plate, and they want him to represent her in a positive light. Nobody wants to be with somebody who's going to embarrass them or, you know, is going to let them down. So they, yeah, they may be demanding, but at some of the times, like I said, it's got something to do with their past. And yeah. So what else have we got here? Yeah, and you also have to think about relationships when kids come into the equation. That's an added stress, especially like with COVID. When we're thinking about long-term relationships, and about taking into account all of these situations that take you away from the loving and the romance, and makes a relationship more realistic. You know, children, when they come in and you can't hug and, you know, do what you would have normally done before they came into your lives. It's about making, you know, accepting that there will be differences. There will be times where you won't be able to lie on your wife's lap, or you won't be able to, you know, snuggle up or touch up your husband because you're not quite sure if the children are coming in. And so there's certain things you have to adapt and adjust to. And also you have to kind of think, as you know, as you're getting older, relationships, you know, men going through the menopause, females going through the menopause, sometimes they're miserable, sometimes they're sweaty, sometimes, you know, all kinds of things are happening to the body and the moods and the behaviors. And then you have to kind of think, you know, this is not what I thought I was going to get into. But, you know, it's about understanding and accepting that these changes will come into relationships, and thinking ahead about how you intend to manage that yourself. And understand that, you know, it just takes a bit more patience, a bit more tolerance. Like children, you need to exercise more patience, more tolerance, more understanding, more communication. So, we also recognize that men are different. Like we say, you know, men have fears and insecurities as much as women. It's harder for them to express them because, you know, they feel as though they've got to have this macho um, image. But I think there's nothing more adorable or more attractive than a man who opens up and who makes himself vulnerable, so you can actually understand. It's a risk they take. It's a risk they take. But I tell you something, I don't think there's a woman, well, there's obviously women out there who take advantage of men who open up and who are honest. But for the most part, you know, I think if a man has got fears or insecurities, I think they should share them so that you can reassure. And as likewise, women, you have your fears and your insecurities, you need to share them with your partner. And they might even say, oh my God, I was thinking the same thing. You know, I thought, you know, that I was a bit worried that you're going to get bored with me, or I'm worried that, you know, you're going off me, or whatever it is. It could be something that you consider silly, you know, but it's good to talk about it. It's good to kind of express it and let your partner know your weaknesses. And because sometimes partners put each other on a pedestal. The woman puts the man on a pedestal and they think, oh, I can't tell him because I'm going to feel stupid. And he's going to think, you know, I'm weak. He's going to think that I'm needy. He's going to think this and he's going to think that. And men can think the same thing. They can think, oh, I don't want to tell her. She'll take the pee out of me. She'll take advantage of me. She's going to disrespect me. So I'm not going to tell her nothing. I'll keep it to myself. Or me, I got to tell my brethren. Whatever it is. But you need, if the relationship is a serious relationship, you really need to be sharing those concerns with each other. And I think, and yes, like I said, you know, the purpose of your relationship. This is about what makes a good relationship. Like I said at the very beginning, why are you getting into a relationship? What is the purpose of it? Is it just for company? Is it because you don't want to die alone? Is it because you don't want to have an accident in the house and nobody know about it? Those can't be the reasons, because you can be in a relationship. Your spouse can go up the road or go out to work and you can drop dead, or you can break your leg. And you're going to end up alone same way. So you have to make sure your motive for a relationship is sincere, and so that you don't enter it on the wrong premise and the wrong foundation. So I hope that from a novice perspective, some of what I've said has made sense. And that's all for now. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.